The smoke found me before the heat did. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning with my lungs on fire, coughing so hard I thought my ribs would crack. For a moment, just a split second, I thought I was dreaming. The kind of nightmare where you're drowning but there's no water. Then I opened my eyes and saw the orange glow bleeding under my bedroom door. I was 62 years old, and I had never moved so fast in my life. My feet hit the hardwood floor, and it was warm. Not hot yet, but warm enough to send a spike of terror straight through my chest. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, muscle memory, thank God, and I ran. No robe, no slippers. Just my old cotton pajamas, the ones with the faded roses that Richard used to say made me look like a grandmother, even before we had grandchildren. Richard. Oh, Richard, if you could have seen our house that night. The hallway was a tunnel of black smoke. I couldn't see 3 feet in front of me. I pulled my shirt over my nose and mouth and ran my hand along the wall, the way they teach children in school. Left, 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 until I hit the corner, then right, then straight, the front door. I fumbled with the deadbolt. My fingers were shaking so badly that I almost couldn't grip it. The metal was hot. Not burning hot, but hot enough to make me understand that I had seconds, not minutes. The lock clicked. I burst outside and collapsed on the front lawn, gasping, choking, crying. The February air hit my sweat-soaked skin like a slap. I was barefoot in Connecticut in the middle of winter, and I didn't care. I was alive. Behind me, I heard the first window explode. I called Kevin, not 911, Kevin, my son, my only child, the boy I had rocked to sleep in the nursery that was now being eaten by flames. The man I had given everything to, including $500,000, so he could open his dream restaurant with his wife. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Hello? A woman's voice, not sleepy, alert, cold. Vanessa. Vanessa, it's Margaret. I was coughing between every word. The house. There's a fire. I need help. I need Kevin. It's 2:30 in the morning, Margaret. I know what time it is. I screamed it. Actually screamed. I had never raised my voice to her in 8 years of marriage to my son. My house is burning down. I'm standing in my front yard in my pajamas, and I need my son. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing, calm, measured, like I had called to complain about an overcooked roast. Look, Margaret. She said my name like it tasted sour. We're exhausted. The restaurant launch is in 5 days, and Kevin has been working 18-hour shifts. We aren't firefighters. This isn't our problem anymore. I couldn't speak. The words lodged in my throat like broken glass. Call your insurance company in the morning, Vanessa continued, and please don't call back tonight. Kevin needs his rest. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in my hand, while my house, my life, roared and crackled behind me. The flames had reached the 2nd floor now. I could see them dancing in the window of the master bedroom, the room where Richard had held my hand and promised me we would grow old together. The room where I had sat with him through 6 months of chemotherapy. The room where I had kissed his forehead one last time 3 years ago and whispered goodbye. And I was alone. The fire trucks came eventually. Someone in the neighborhood must have called. I don't remember who. I don't remember much of the next hour except for the cold and the noise and the pitying looks from the paramedics who wrapped a shock blanket around my shoulders. Ma'am, is there anyone we can call? One of them asked. Young man, kind eyes. I thought about Kevin, about Vanessa's voice, flat and dismissive. This isn't our problem anymore. No, I said. There's no one. They took me to the hospital to check for smoke inhalation. I sat on a gurney in the emergency room, still wearing my rose print pajamas under a borrowed hospital gown, and I stared at the wall. My phone was dead. I had no purse, no wallet, no ID. Everything I owned was ash. But that wasn't what broke me. What broke me was the memory that came flooding back as I sat there alone. Richard's voice, clear as a bell, from a conversation we'd had 20 years ago when Kevin was just starting college. "Maggie," he'd said. "That boy has a good heart, but he's soft. He'll need someone to protect him when we're gone." I had promised Richard I would protect our son. I had given Kevin everything, my love, my time, my money, so that he could build a life and be happy. And tonight, when I needed him most, his wife had told me I wasn't their problem. I pulled the shock blanket tighter around my shoulders and made a decision. I was done being soft. The hospital discharged me at dawn. I had nowhere to go, $17 in my phone's emergency cash app, and one phone number I still remembered by heart. Harold Chen, Richard's oldest friend and our family attorney for 35 years. I found a payphone in the hospital lobby. I didn't even know they still existed. I dialed Harold's number and waited. "Margaret?" His voice was gravelly with sleep, but instantly alert. "What's wrong?" "My house burned down, Harold, and I think my son's wife just showed me exactly who she really is." A pause, then, quietly, "Tell me everything." And I did. The Budget Inn on Route 7 smelled like mildew and broken dreams. I checked in with the emergency credit card Harold arranged for me. A temporary fix until we could sort out the insurance paperwork. The woman at the front desk looked at me with that particular blend of pity and suspicion reserved for people who show up at cheap motels wearing hospital gowns and borrowed slippers. "Room 14, she said, sliding a plastic keycard across the counter. "Checkout's at 11. Ice machine's broken." Of course it was. The room was exactly what $17 a night buys you in suburban Connecticut. A queen bed with a mattress that sagged in the middle like a defeated sigh. Curtains the color of nicotine stains. A television bolted to the dresser, the kind with actual buttons on the side because the remote had been stolen years ago. I sat on the edge of that terrible bed and cried. Not pretty crying, not the delicate tears you see in movies. I'm talking about the ugly kind, the snot-running, chest-heaving, animal sound kind of crying that comes from somewhere so deep you didn't even know it existed. I cried for my house, for Richard's leather chair that still smelled like him, for our wedding photos, Kevin's baby pictures, the quilt my mother made me when I turned 18. Gone. All of it. Ash and memory. I tried calling Kevin 6 times that first day. Every single call went to voicemail. I left messages. Calm ones at first. "Kevin, honey, it's Mom. I'm at a motel on Route 7. Please call me when you get this. I love you." Then, as the hours passed and the silence stretched, "Kevin, I'm scared. I have nothing. Please, please, call me back." Nothing. On the second day, I texted him. Simple, direct. "Are you alive? I need to hear from you." 3 dots appeared. My heart leaped. Then they vanished. No response. By day 3, I stopped crying. Something else was settling into my bones. Something cold and watchful. I told myself he was busy. The restaurant was opening. Vanessa was probably monitoring his phone, keeping him focused. I told myself a lot of lies that week. On day 5, I discovered the truth. I was lying in bed, unable to sleep, scrolling through Facebook on the cheap smartphone Harold had couriered to me. I hadn't posted anything myself. What was there to say? Lost everything in a fire, currently living in a motel that charges extra for towels, my son won't return my calls, living the dream. But I looked, I scrolled, and that's when I saw it, Vanessa's post. Public, because of course it was public. She wanted everyone to see. Grand opening success. Kevin's kitchen is officially open, and we are overwhelmed by the love. Thank you to everyone who came out to support our dream. This is just the beginning. Blessed, Jurors, family first. Kevin's kitchen. The photos loaded slowly on the motel's terrible Wi-Fi. Each one was a knife. Photo 1. Vanessa in a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, cutting a ribbon beside Kevin. He was smiling, actually smiling, not a trace of worry on his face. Photo 2. The dining room packed with guests, crystal glasses, white tablecloths, candles flickering on every table. My $500,000, transformed into Instagram content. Photo 3. The family table. I zoomed in. I had to be sure. There was Gloria, Vanessa's mother, wearing a silk blouse and pearls. Pearls I recognized, actually. I had given them to Vanessa as a wedding gift 7 years ago. Gloria was laughing, glass of champagne raised. Beside her, Troy, Vanessa's brother, in a chef's coat with his name embroidered on the chest. Chef Troy. The man had never cooked a meal in his life that didn't involve a microwave. And there, at the end of the table, raising her glass with the rest of them, Aunt Sylvia, my dead husband's sister, the woman who had stood beside me at Richard's funeral and whispered, "You'll always have family, Margaret, always." She was tagged in the photo. I clicked her profile. She had posted her own album, 37 photos from the grand opening, captions like, "So proud of Kevin and Vanessa," and "This restaurant is going to be huge," and the one that made my stomach turn, "Surrounded by the people who matter most. This is family." I was not in a single photograph. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came when I searched for the restaurant's name and found the article. The Hartford Courant had done a feature, a full-page spread in the food and dining section, complete with professional photos and pull quotes. I read it 3 times, convinced I was hallucinating. Kevin's Kitchen, the newest addition to Connecticut's thriving farm-to-table scene, celebrated its grand opening last Saturday to a packed house of eager diners. Owner Kevin Davenport, 42, credits his wife Vanessa for the restaurant's elegant vision. There was a paragraph about the menu, a paragraph about the decor, a paragraph about Troy's innovative approach to modern American cuisine. And then, buried near the end, a single line about the financing. The restaurant was funded through a combination of private investment and support from extended family, including a generous contribution from a distant relative. Distant relative, $500,000. I had given my son $500,000, my retirement, my safety net, the money Richard and I had saved for 30 years. And I was a distant relative. I sat in that motel room, the phone shaking in my hands, and I felt something shift inside me. The grief was still there, yes. The betrayal burned like acid in my chest. But beneath it all, rising like smoke from the ruins of everything I had lost, was something else. Rage, cold, patient, righteous rage. I thought about Vanessa's voice on the phone that night. This isn't our problem anymore. I thought about Gloria wearing my pearls. About Aunt Sylvia toasting to family while I sat alone in a motel room that smelled like mildew and regret. I thought about Richard. What would he say if he could see what had become of us? What would he do? I knew the answer. Richard had been a gentleman, but he wasn't weak. He had built his business from nothing. He had faced down competitors, lawsuits, market crashes. He had taught me one lesson above all others. Never let anyone mistake your kindness for weakness, Maggie. The moment they do, show them the difference. I picked up my phone and dialed Harold's number. "Harold," I said when he answered, "I need you to pull every document related to Kevin's restaurant, the original investment agreement, the ownership structure, everything." "Margaret, are you all right? I sound awake, Harold." I stared at my reflection in the motel's grimy mirror. Tired, broken, invisible. For the first time in years, I sound completely awake. "How soon can you meet me?" "Tomorrow morning. I'll clear my schedule." "Good." I nodded at my reflection. The woman staring back didn't look like a distant relative anymore. She looked like someone who was done being ignored. "And Harold? Book me a room somewhere decent. Somewhere with clean sheets and room service." "Consider it done." I hung up and looked one more time at the photo of Gloria, Troy, Sylvia, Kevin, and Vanessa, all of them glowing with champagne and success, celebrating on my money while I rotted in a roadside motel. Enjoy it while it lasts, I thought. Because this distant relative is about to get very, very close. The Worthington Grand smelled like orchids and old money. I stood in the marble lobby with a single shopping bag, 3 outfits Harold's assistant had purchased for me from a department store, and I breathed it in. After 5 nights in that motel, with its mildew curtains and paper-thin walls and the couple next door who screamed at each other every night at 2 a.m, this place felt like stepping into a dream. A good dream, the kind I'd almost forgotten existed. Mrs. Davenport? The concierge approached me with a smile that probably cost more than my motel room. Welcome to the Worthington Grand. Mr. Chen has arranged the Riverside Suite for you. Extended stay, all amenities included. I followed her to the elevator, my borrowed flats clicking against floors so polished I could see my reflection. The elevator doors were brass. The buttons were backlit. When we reached the 4th floor, the hallway was carpeted in something thick and burgundy that swallowed every footstep. The suite had a king bed with white linens that looked like clouds made solid. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. A bathroom with a soaking tub, heated floors and towels so fluffy they felt like an apology for everything I'd endured. I sat on the edge of that perfect bed and cried again. But this time, the tears were different. This time, they felt like something leaving my body. The fear, the helplessness. The woman who had stood in her front yard in rose print pajamas, watching her life burn, begging her daughter-in-law for help. That woman was still inside me, but she was making room for someone else. I showered for 45 minutes. I used every miniature bottle of shampoo and conditioner and body wash. I wrapped myself in a robe that felt like being hugged by a cloud, and I ordered room service, a club sandwich, a Caesar salad, a glass of white wine, and I ate every single bite sitting by the window, watching the February sun sink below the tree line. Then I called Harold. "I'm ready," I said. "Bring the documents." And Harold arrived at 9 the next morning with a leather briefcase and dark circles under his eyes. "I was up until 3, he said, settling into the armchair across from me. The suite had a sitting area with a coffee table, perfect for spreading out paperwork. "Margaret, I need to ask you something before we begin." "Ask." "Did you actually read the investment agreement before you signed it?" I felt my cheeks flush. The truth was I hadn't. Not carefully. Kevin had brought it to me 2 years ago, excited and nervous, talking a mile a minute about his dream and Vanessa's vision and how they'd found the perfect location. I had signed it because he was my son, because I trusted him, because I wanted to believe that giving him everything would make him happy. I skimmed it, I admitted. Harold smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him since this nightmare began. "Then you're going to be very pleased with what I'm about to show you." He opened the briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. The original investment agreement was on top, sticky notes marking several pages. "Your husband was no fool," Harold said. "When Richard asked me to draft this template 15 years ago, he insisted on certain protections, standard clauses for any significant family investment. Richard drafted this?" "He drafted the template. I updated it for Kevin's restaurant, but the core structure remained." Harold pointed to a highlighted paragraph. "This is a morality clause. In simple terms, it states that if the recipient of the investment engages in behavior that damages the investor's reputation, well-being, or relationship with the family, the investor can reclaim their stake in full." I read the paragraph 3 times. The legal language was dense, but the meaning was clear. "And this," Harold continued, flipping to another page, "is the ownership structure. You invested $500,000. Kevin and Vanessa invested nothing, just sweat equity and Vanessa's event planning expertise, whatever that's worth." "What does that mean for ownership?" Harold's smile widened. "It means you own 51% of Kevin's kitchen, Margaret. You're the majority shareholder. You've always been the majority shareholder." The room tilted slightly. I gripped the arm of my chair. "They never told me that." "I imagine they hoped you'd never ask." Harold pulled out another document. "There's more. I did some digging into their recent communications. Vanessa has been busy. He handed me a printout, emails, text messages, screenshots. I read them, and my blood turned to ice. Vanessa had been telling people I was mentally declining, that the stress of Richard's death had broken something in me, that I was confused and paranoid and making up stories. She'd told Gloria, she'd told Troy, she'd told Aunt Sylvia, she'd told Kevin. One text stood out, highlighted in yellow. Vanessa to Kevin, dated 3 weeks before the fire. Your mother is becoming a liability. She's unstable. We need to start distancing ourselves before she does something embarrassing at the opening. Trust me on this. She can't be around important people anymore. I set the paper down carefully, as if it might explode. She's been isolating me, I said, deliberately, for months. Longer than months, I suspect. Harold's voice was gentle, but his eyes were hard. This wasn't spontaneous cruelty, Margaret. This was a campaign. I stood and walked to the window. The river sparkled in the morning light, indifferent to human treachery. What are my options? I asked. Legally? Several. Harold joined me at the window, hands clasped behind his back. You can invoke the morality clause and demand full repayment. You can exercise your majority ownership and take control of the restaurant. You can file a civil suit for fraud and emotional distress. Or you can do what Richard would have done. I turned to look at him. Which is? Beat them at their own game, quietly, completely, without ever raising your voice. Harold reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small box. I took the liberty of purchasing this. It's a digital voice recorder, the same kind attorneys use for depositions. Small enough to fit in a pocket or purse. Legal in Connecticut as long as one party consents to the recording. And I'm the one party. Exactly. I turned the recorder over in my hands. It weighed almost nothing. Such a small thing to carry so much power. I also have a name for you, Harold continued. A private investigator. Discreet. Thorough. Richard used him years ago when a competitor was spreading rumors about our supply chain. His name is Marcus Webb. He's not cheap, but he's worth every penny. Call him. Harold nodded. There's one more thing. I've been reaching out to some of Richard's old contacts, suppliers, investors, people who remember him fondly and who were never particularly impressed by Vanessa's social aspirations. And they're very interested in hearing from his widow. Harold picked up his briefcase. You have more allies than you know, Margaret. The question is, how do you want to use them? I looked at the stack of documents on the coffee table. The ownership agreement, the morality clause. The emails proving Vanessa had been poisoning everyone against me. Then I looked at my reflection in the window. The woman staring back was no longer crying. She was no longer confused or broken or waiting for her son to call. She was calculating. I want to know everything, I said. Every vendor they work with, every investor they've courted, every health code they've bent. I want to know when their lease payments are due and how much they owe and who they've lied to besides me. That could take a few weeks. Then we'd better get started. I slipped the recorder into my robe pocket. Because I have a feeling my daughter-in-law is about to call me, and when she does, I want to be ready. Harold paused at the door. Margaret, are you sure about this? Once you start down this path, there's no going back. Kevin is still your son. I thought about the fire, the phone call. This isn't our problem anymore. Kevin made his choice, I said. Now I'm making mine. When I spent the next 9 days becoming someone I barely recognized. Every morning I woke at 6, ordered coffee and fruit from room service, and spread Marcus Webb's reports across the sitting area floor. The private investigator was worth every penny Harold had promised. Within a week, he had compiled a dossier that would have made a federal prosecutor weep with joy. Kevin's kitchen was bleeding money. The grand opening had been beautiful, yes. All those Instagram photos, all that champagne, all those glowing reviews. But behind the velvet curtains, the numbers told a different story. The build-out had cost nearly double the original estimate. Vanessa had insisted on Italian marble countertops. Troy had ordered a custom wood-fired oven from Portugal that arrived 6 weeks late and $3,000 over budget. They had burned through my $500,000 in 11 months, and now they were drowning. Marcus had contacts at the restaurant supply company. The accounts were 60 days past due. The landlord, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Vance, had sent 2 warning letters about late rent payments. Even the linen service was threatening to pull their tablecloths. "They need cash," Harold said during one of our evening briefings. "Desperately, which means Vanessa is going to call me." "Exactly." He handed me a sheet of paper. I had my assistant draft some talking points, things a confused, desperate mother-in-law might say when her beloved daughter-in-law finally reaches out. I read them. I memorized them. I practiced them in front of the bathroom mirror until they sounded natural, until the quiver in my voice was just right, until I could deliver the performance of a lifetime. Because that's what this was now. A performance. And Vanessa had no idea she had cast me as the lead. I kept the recorder charged, I kept my phone nearby, and I waited. On day 9, it happened. The phone rang at 4:47 in the afternoon. I was sitting by the window, reading a novel I had ordered from the hotel's concierge service, the first book I'd allowed myself in months. The caller ID showed Kevin's number, but I knew. I knew before I even answered. I pressed record. "Hello? Margaret. Oh my goodness, it's so good to hear your voice." Vanessa's tone was warm, honey poured over broken glass. "I've been meaning to call for days, but things have just been absolutely crazy with the restaurant. How are you? How are you holding up?" I let a beat of silence pass, then another. Let her wonder if the line had disconnected. "Vanessa," I made my voice small, fragile. "Is that really you?" "Of course it's me, silly. Listen, I am so sorry about the fire. We wanted to come see you immediately, but Kevin was just working himself to the bone with the opening, and by the time we had a free moment, we didn't even know where you were staying. You just disappeared on us." Disappeared. As if I had chosen to vanish. As if I hadn't called Kevin 6 times in 5 days. "I'm in a hotel now," I said, letting my voice waver. "Harold helped me. I didn't know who else to call. I thought maybe Kevin was angry with me." "Angry? Oh, Margaret, no. Kevin could never be angry with you. He's been worried sick. We both have." The lies slid off her tongue so smoothly. I wondered if she even knew she was lying anymore. "I saw the pictures from the opening," I ventured. "It looked beautiful." "Wasn't it gorgeous? I wish you could have been there, I really do. But everything happened so fast. And honestly, Margaret, we were worried about you. After the trauma of the fire, we thought being around all those people might be overwhelming. Overwhelming. That was the word she used. Not, we didn't invite you. Not, I told your son you were mentally unstable. No, she was protecting me from being overwhelmed. That was thoughtful of you, I said. The words tasted like ash. Well, we're family. She laughed, that bright, artificial laugh she used at dinner parties. Speaking of which, I actually called because I wanted to talk to you about something. A favor, really. But it's totally fine if you can't help. I know things are complicated right now. Here it comes, I thought. The knife behind the smile. What kind of favor? Vanessa sighed. The sound was perfectly calibrated, weary, vulnerable, just desperate enough. It's the restaurant. We've had some unexpected expenses come up. Supply chain issues, you know how it is. And the thing is, we have this amazing opportunity to expand, a catering contract with a corporate client. But we need to secure some additional inventory first. I see. Kevin didn't want me to ask. He's so proud, you know. But I told him, Kevin, your mother loves you. She would want to help if she could. And I just thought, well, if you could transfer the final $200,000 from the original investment, it would make all the difference. We could pay you back within 6 months, with interest. The final $200,000. She said it like it was spare change, like I had a pile of money sitting in a vault somewhere, waiting to be handed over. I let the silence stretch. 3 seconds. 5, 10. Margaret, are you still there? I'm here. I injected a tremor into my voice. It's just 200,000 is a lot, Vanessa. After the fire, I'm not sure I can. Oh, Margaret, I know. I know it's a lot to ask. But this isn't just about the restaurant. It's about Kevin's future. It's about his legacy. Richard would have wanted, don't. The word came out sharper than I intended. I caught myself, softened my tone. I'm sorry. It's hard to hear his name. Of course. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I need to think about it, I said. Can I call you back tomorrow? Absolutely. Take all the time you need. Her voice was sunshine and roses now. She thought she had won. And Margaret? I really am sorry about everything. The fire, the distance, all of it. We should have been there for you. I want you to know that moving forward, things are going to be different. Thank you, Vanessa. That means more than you know. We're family, she said again. Talk soon. The line went dead. I stopped the recording. Harold arrived within the hour. We sat together on the sofa, the recorder between us, and listened to the entire conversation. Vanessa's honeyed words filled the room like perfume from a poisoned flower, sweet on the surface, toxic underneath. She never once asked how you were really doing, Harold observed. Not a single genuine question about your health, your housing, your emotional state. She asked if I was overwhelmed. To explain why she didn't invite you to the opening. Not because she actually cared. He shook his head. This is good, Margaret. This is exactly what we needed. It doesn't feel good, I admitted. It feels like swallowing glass and pretending it tastes like water. I know. He placed a hand on my shoulder, a fatherly gesture that made my eyes sting. But you're doing what needs to be done. Richard would be proud. I nodded, not trusting my voice. My phone buzzed. A text message. My heart lurched when I saw the name. Kevin. I opened it with trembling fingers. Mom, Vanessa told me she called you. Thank you for considering helping us. I know things have been difficult. I want you to know that I love you. I'm sorry I haven't been around. There's just been so much happening. Can we have dinner soon? Just the two of us? Kay. I stared at those words for a long time. Just the two of us. As if Vanessa didn't control every minute of his day. As if this wasn't her idea, her strategy, her way of softening me up. But beneath the manipulation, I heard something else. Something small and scared and buried under years of his wife's influence. My son was still in there. Somewhere. I typed a single response. I'd like that, Kevin. Let me know when you're free. Then I turned to Harold. How long until everything is in place? 2 weeks, maybe less. Good. I looked at the phone, at Kevin's name glowing on the screen. Because I think I'm going to need to save my son before I can destroy his wife. Richard used to say that real power wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself with trumpets and threats. Real power moved like water, quiet, patient, reshaping everything it touched without ever raising its voice. I thought about that a lot during those 2 weeks. The first call I made was to Bernard Whitmore, 73 years old and the owner of Whitmore Food Distributors. Richard had helped him secure a crucial loan during the recession of 2008, when every bank in Connecticut had turned him away. Bernard had never forgotten. Margaret Davenport, he said when I introduced myself, his voice cracked with warmth. Richard's widow. My God, it's been too long. How are you, dear? I've been better, Bernard. I need a favor. Name it. My son's restaurant, Kevin's Kitchen. I believe you supply their produce. A pause. Papers shuffling. We do. They're about 60 days past due, actually. My accounts manager has been calling, but the daughter-in-law keeps promising checks that never arrive. I'd like you to call those invoices due immediately. Full payment, cash only, or you suspend deliveries. Bernard didn't hesitate. Consider it done. Anything else? Not yet. But Bernard, keep this between us. Richard saved my business, Margaret. Your secrets are my secrets. I made 7 more calls that week, to the linen service, to the wine distributor, to the company that supplied their cleaning chemicals. Each conversation followed the same pattern. Old friends of Richard, people who owed him favors, people who remembered his kindness and were appalled to learn how his widow had been treated. One by one, the threads began to tighten. But the most important meeting was with Patricia Vance. The landlord was a sharp woman in her 60s, with silver hair and reading glasses perched permanently on her nose. We met for coffee at a quiet cafe downtown, away from prying eyes. "Mrs. Davenport," she said, stirring her espresso, "I've been curious about you. Your daughter-in-law talks about you constantly. Never anything flattering, I'm afraid." "I'm sure she doesn't." "She told me you were mentally unstable, that you'd been making wild accusations about the family." Patricia's eyes were cool and assessing. "You don't seem unstable to me." "I'm not." I slid a folder across the table. "What I am is the majority shareholder of Kevin's Kitchen, 51%. I have documentation." Patricia opened the folder, read the first page, raised an eyebrow. "Well," she said, "that changes things considerably." The dinner with Kevin happened on a Thursday. He chose a small Italian restaurant in Hartford, neutral territory, far from Vanessa's orbit. When I arrived, he was already seated, hunched over a glass of red wine like a man seeking absolution in the bottom of the glass. He looked terrible. My son had always been handsome, Richard's strong jaw, my dark eyes. But the man sitting across from me seemed hollowed out, dark circles under his eyes, a tremor in his hands. He'd lost weight, and not in a healthy way. "Mom." He stood, hugged me. His arms felt thin. "Thank you for coming." "Of course." I sat across from him, studying his face. "Kevin, are you all right?" "Fine. I'm fine." He said it too quickly. "Just tired. The restaurant is. It's a lot." "I can imagine." We ordered food neither of us would eat. Pasta that would grow cold on our plates while we circled the real conversation like boxers in a ring. Finally, Kevin broke. "Mom, I'm sorry." I waited. "I'm sorry about the fire, about not calling, about—" His voice cracked. "About everything. Vanessa said you were okay, that Harold was handling things, that you needed space. And I believed her. I always believe her. Why?" The question hung between us. Kevin stared at his wine. "Because it's easier," he whispered. "Because when I don't believe her, things get difficult. She has a way of making everything my fault. Every fight, every problem, every disappointment. Somehow it always comes back to me." My heart broke. Not for the man who had ignored my calls while my house burned. For the boy underneath, the soft-hearted child Richard had worried about, the son who had always needed someone to protect him. He had just chosen the wrong protector. "Kevin." I reached across the table and took his hand. "I need you to hear me. What I'm about to say isn't easy, but I need you to really listen." He nodded, eyes wet. "Your wife has been lying to you. About me, about the restaurant, about everything." I squeezed his fingers. "I have proof. Documentation, recordings, and in the next few days things are going to happen that you won't understand. But I need you to trust me." "What things? Mom, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about a choice, Kevin. The same choice I made when I was your age." I thought of Richard, of the life we'd built together, of the sacrifices and the joys and the quiet moments that mattered more than money ever could. You can stay on the path you're on, following someone who sees you as a means to an end. Or you can come home. Come home to what? Your house is gone. Home isn't a building, sweetheart. I touched his cheek. Home is me. It always has been. He didn't answer. But something shifted in his eyes, a flicker of the boy I remembered, buried beneath years of Vanessa's control. I didn't push. I had planted the seed. Now I had to wait for it to grow. The dominoes began falling 3 days later. Monday morning, Whitmore Food Distributors delivered an ultimatum. Full payment within 48 hours, or all deliveries would be suspended. Vanessa called Bernard personally, unleashing a torrent of threats and promises that bounced off him like rain off stone. Tuesday, the linen service showed up with a truck, not to deliver fresh tablecloths, but to collect every napkin, every apron, every towel they had provided on credit. The lunch service was a disaster. Customers ate off paper napkins while Vanessa screamed at the manager in the back office. Wednesday, the wine distributor called in their outstanding balance, $18,000 due immediately. When Vanessa tried to negotiate, they laughed. "Cash only," they said. "Mrs. Davenport's instructions." She must have wondered then, must have felt the first stirrings of unease. But she didn't know. Not yet. Thursday brought the health inspector. I hadn't arranged that one directly. Patricia Vance had mentioned that the building had some outstanding code concerns that she'd been meaning to report. A leaky pipe near the walk-in refrigerator. Some questions about the ventilation in the kitchen. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to warrant an official visit. They found 17 violations. The restaurant was ordered to close for 72 hours while repairs were made. 72 hours without revenue. 72 hours of staff standing idle while bills piled up like snowdrifts. That night, my phone rang. Vanessa's number. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again, 4 times in 20 minutes. Then came the text. "Margaret, I don't know what's happening, but we need to talk. Urgently. Please call me back." I smiled and set my phone aside. Friday morning, I received a call from Patricia Vance. "It's done," she said. "I've initiated the lease review process. Given the payment history and the code violations, I have grounds to terminate. They have 30 days to vacate, unless, of course, someone else wants to assume the lease." Someone else? Someone with 51% ownership, perhaps. Someone who might want to transfer that ownership to a different party altogether. I thought about the restaurant, the Italian marble countertops, the Portuguese pizza oven, the dreams my son had poured into those walls. Then I thought about Vanessa's voice on the night of the fire. "This isn't our problem anymore. I have a buyer in mind," I said. "An old friend of my husband's. He's been looking to expand into the Connecticut market. I'll await his call." I hung up and walked to the window. The river sparkled in the winter sun, beautiful and indifferent. Tomorrow, I would make the final call. Tomorrow, Vanessa would learn what happened when you burned the wrong bridge. I woke early on the morning of my revenge. Not because I was nervous. I had moved past nervous days ago. I woke early because I wanted to savor it. The way the winter light crept across the Worthington Grand silk curtains. The smell of fresh coffee from the room service cart. The weight of the phone in my hand, heavy with possibility. I showered. I dressed carefully, a charcoal cashmere sweater Richard had given me years ago, recovered from a storage unit along with a few other precious items that had escaped the fire. I applied lipstick for the first time in weeks, not for Vanessa, for myself. At precisely 9 o'clock, I dialed her number. She answered on the first ring. "Margaret. Oh, thank God." Her voice was ragged, stripped of its usual polish. "I've been trying to reach you for days. Something is happening. Suppliers are pulling out. The health department shut us down. The landlord is threatening to terminate our lease. I don't understand what's going on." "Don't you—" A pause. I could hear her breathing, quick, shallow, panicked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Vanessa, that you made a mistake." I kept my voice calm, pleasant even, the way she had sounded when she told me my burning house wasn't her problem. Several mistakes, actually, but the biggest one was assuming I was as stupid as you needed me to be. "Margaret, I don't know what you're talking about. If someone has been telling you lies about me, no one told me anything I didn't discover myself." I walked to the window, looking out at the river. "Did you know that Richard insisted on certain protections when we drafted the original investment agreement? A morality clause, for instance. It states that if the recipient of the investment engages in behavior that damages the investor's well-being or family relationships, the investor can reclaim their stake in full." Silence. Did you also know, I continued, that I never signed over majority ownership? I own 51% of Kevin's kitchen, Vanessa. I always have. You just never bothered to read the fine print. That's not possible. Kevin said. Kevin didn't read it either. He trusted you to handle the paperwork. I smiled at my reflection in the glass. That was his mistake. Trusting you. Her voice turned cold. The honey evaporated, revealing the venom underneath. What do you want, Margaret? Money? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry about the fire. I'm sorry I wasn't more supportive. Now can we please? I don't want your apology. I cut her off. I want you to remember something. I want you to remember exactly what you said to me when I called you at 2:30 in the morning, begging for help while everything I loved burned to the ground. I was tired. I didn't mean... You said, this isn't our problem anymore. Call your insurance and don't call back. I let the words hang in the air. Do you remember that? Margaret, I've decided to take your advice, Vanessa. What? Since I wasn't close family enough to be invited to the grand opening. I could hear her breath catch. I'm certainly not close enough to pay the bills. The restaurant isn't my problem anymore, just like my burning house wasn't yours. You can't do this. We'll sue me with what money? I laughed, actually laughed. It felt foreign in my throat, but good. Cleansing. Every vendor you owe has called in their debts. The landlord is terminating your lease, and as of this morning, I've transferred my 51% ownership to a buyer who has no interest in keeping you involved. Who? Who did you sell to? An old friend of Richard's, someone who actually knows how to run a business. I paused. Good luck with the bankruptcy, Vanessa. I hear creditors can be very persistent. You vindictive old... Goodbye, Vanessa. I ended the call before she could finish the insult. Then I stood there, phone in hand, watching the river sparkle in the morning light. It was done. Kevin arrived at my hotel room 4 hours later. He looked worse than he had at dinner. Unshaven, red-eyed, wearing the same clothes I'd seen him in 3 days ago. He stood in my doorway like a ghost, like a man who had just watched his entire life collapse into rubble. Mom. His voice cracked. What did you do? Come in, Kevin. He stumbled inside, collapsing onto the sofa where Harold and I had reviewed documents and planned strategy for 2 weeks. He put his head in his hands, and I saw his shoulders shake. It's gone, he whispered. Everything is gone. The restaurant, the investors, our savings. She's losing her mind. She keeps screaming about lawyers and lawsuits, but we don't have money for lawyers. We don't have money for anything. I sat across from him. I did not reach out to comfort him. Not yet. Do you understand why I did this? He looked up. Tears streamed down his face. My son, my baby boy, weeping like he had when he was 5 years old and his goldfish died. Because she was terrible to you, he said. Because we abandoned you when you needed us most. That's part of it. I leaned forward, but not all of it. Kevin, do you know what your wife has been telling people about me? That I'm senile, that I'm mentally unstable, that I make up stories and can't be trusted around important people? His face went pale. She said she was just protecting you, that people wouldn't understand your grief over Dad. She was isolating me, systematically, for months. I pulled out the folder of evidence, the emails, the text messages, the screenshots. She wanted to make sure that by the time she had drained every dollar from me, no one would believe my side of the story. Kevin read the documents. I watched his expression shift from confusion to disbelief to horror. The night of the fire, I said quietly. When I called you, when I begged for help while my house burned down, she answered your phone. She told me to call my insurance and not to call back. Then she hung up on me. I didn't know. His voice was hollow. Mom, I swear to God I didn't know. She told me you were fine. She told me Harold was handling everything. She told me you needed space. And you believed her. I always believe her. He broke down completely, sobbing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have called. I should have been there. I'm such a coward. Yes, I said it gently, but I said it. You were. He flinched. But Kevin, I moved to sit beside him. I took his hands in mine. You are also my son, the only piece of Richard I have left, and I am giving you one chance to make this right. He looked at me with desperate hope. Anything. I'll do anything. You need to choose. I held his gaze. Right now, tonight, you can stay with Vanessa. You can help her file her useless lawsuits and rage against me and spend the rest of your life blaming everyone else for your failures. Or you can come home. I squeezed his hands. Divorce her. Start over. It won't be easy. You'll have nothing. No restaurant, no savings, no safety net. But you'll have me. You'll have a chance to become the man your father always believed you could be. He stared at me. The tears had stopped. Something was shifting behind his eyes, the same flicker I had seen at dinner, growing stronger. She'll fight the divorce, he said. She'll make it ugly. Probably. Everyone will know I failed. Some will. Others will understand. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, softly, "Can I stay here tonight? I can't. I can't go back there. Not yet." I pulled my son into my arms. He collapsed against me, shaking, broken, but reaching for something solid, something real. "You can stay as long as you need," I whispered into his hair. Vanessa filed for divorce 3 weeks later. Not Kevin. Vanessa. When she realized there was no more money to extract, no more investments to demand, no more credit to exploit, she cut her losses and ran. She moved back to her mother Gloria's house, where I'm told she spends most of her time complaining about how everyone betrayed her. Troy, the fake chef, is working at a Chili's now. I try not to take too much satisfaction in that, but I don't always succeed. Aunt Sylvia sent me a letter, an actual handwritten letter, full of apologies and explanations about how Vanessa had manipulated her. I read it once, then threw it away. Some bridges are better left burned. The restaurant space was taken over by Richard's friend, a man named George, who had always wanted to open an authentic Greek taverna. He offered Kevin a job as assistant manager. Kevin said yes. He's learning the business from the ground up this time, the right way, with no shortcuts and no wealthy mother to bail him out. We have dinner together every Sunday night. It's not always easy. There are silences between us, wounds that haven't fully healed. Sometimes I look at him and still see the man who ignored my calls while my house burned down. But more often now, I see the boy I raised, the soft heart his father worried about, finally learning to beat on its own. I stayed at the Worthington Grand for 3 months while the insurance company sorted out my claim. Then I bought a small cottage by the river, 2 bedrooms, a garden, a porch where I can sit with my coffee and watch the water flow. It's not the house I shared with Richard for 30 years. Those memories are ashes now, scattered on the wind. But I've discovered something unexpected in these quiet mornings. Richard isn't in the house I lost. He isn't in the leather chair or the wedding photos or the quilt my mother made me. He's in me. In the strength I didn't know I had. In the patience I learned from watching him. In the quiet, persistent power that reshapes everything it touches without ever raising its voice. I thought losing everything would break me. Instead, it showed me who I really was. Not a distant relative, not a confused old woman, not a problem to be managed, a phoenix. And this time, I rose from the ashes on my own terms.